Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Mantareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhagavati Naishtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 30, description by Lord Kapila of adverse fruitive activities. Text number 8 onwards. Akshiptat mendriya strinam satinam chamaya rahor chittayalape shishunam kalabhashinam. So Lord Kapil Dev is further speaking about the Maya and how a living entity gets bound up living in the household activities, thinking everything in relation to this house or this body is mine. So a living entity, conditioned soul, he gives heart and senses to a woman who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces in talking with her and is enchanted by the sweet words of the small children. Family life within the kingdom of illusory energy, Maya, is just like a prison for the eternal living entity. In prison, a prisoner is shackled by iron chains and iron bars. Similarly, a conditioned soul is shackled by the charming beauty of a woman, by her solitary embraces and talks of so-called love, and by the sweet words of his small children. Thus he forgets his real identity. So obviously this is for maybe 95% of the grihasthas living, but the devotees are different. They are and this is called Grimedi life, where a person gets married, has children, and is all his goal of life is eat, drink, and be married. That's it. Earn money, spend money on wife and children, and try to enjoy the senses. But obviously, this is not true for Grihastha ashram, where people are trying, and husband and wife both are supporting each other to make progress in Krishna consciousness. So Grihastha is also called an ashram. It's not just place for enjoyment. It's an ashram where we make progress spiritually, where we do austerities to make progress spiritually. But in general situation of householder life, this is what happens. So a conditioned soul is shackled by the charming beauty of a woman, by her solitary embraces and talks of so-called love. And so-called love, because actually that is lust, whatever so-called love exists in the material world. In this verse, the words Shri Strinam or Satinam indicate that womanly love is just to agitate the mind of a man. Actually, in the material world, there is no love. Both the woman and man are interested in the sense gratification. For sense gratification, a woman creates an illusory love and the man becomes enchanted by such false love and forgets his real duty. It's the same thing happens the other way around also. It's not just because, in the shloka it was like that, so Prabhupada has written the purport like that. But man also creates illusory love to enchant a woman and to be with him. But the idea is sense gratification only. When there are children as a result of such a combination, the next attraction is to the sweet words of the children. The love of the woman at home and the talk of the children make one a secure prisoner, and thus he cannot leave his home. Such a person is termed in Vedic language a Grihamedi, which means one whose center of attraction is home. And that is true for families all over the world. Grihastha refers to one who lives with family, wife, and children, but whose real purpose of living is to develop Krishna consciousness. One is therefore advised to become a Grihastha and not a Grihamedi. The Grihastha's concern is to get out of the family life created by illusion and enter into real family life with Krishna. Whereas the Grihamedi's business is to repeatedly chain himself to so-called family life, in one life after another, and perpetually remain in the darkness of Maya. So Grihamedi, so that life where just one whose center of attraction is home. So my home and my relatives at the home, and this is it. This is my whole life. This is my world. Well, which is still better than going around being a vagabond and not taking any responsibility. It's still better than that. But ultimately we have to understand the real purpose of life as a human being is to develop Krishna consciousness. Not to make big homes and fancy homes and try to accumulate all kinds of material paraphernalia to have a comfortable or very aristocratic life. That's not the real aim. But the person who's married, like, who has a family like that, and his whole life just goes on around his wife and children, and like we discussed yesterday about Narad Muni coming and asking this boy Kailash to come back to spiritual world, but he just couldn't leave his family ties. And that is why in early days, the system of Varnashram was very nicely implemented. So ashram means brahmacharya, grihastha, vanprastha and sannyas. So 4 ashrams are there. And so the idea is if somebody lives for 100 years, then 25 years he should live as a brahmachari, next 25 years as a grihastha. Not that brahmachari and then grihastha throughout the life. And then next 25 years as vanprastha. And then next last 25 years as sannyasi. So the idea is just like Karda Muni showed with this example. Kapil Dev is speaking, but Karda Muni, he became a grihastha. He was a perfect brahmachari, but somehow he developed a desire to get married to serve Brahmaji's instructions. And he became a grihastha. As a grihastha also, he was still continuing with his brahmachari life of austerity, tapasya. But then he realized it is too much for Devhuti to bear. So he just satisfied her in every way possible. Gave her a wonderful palace and children, 9 daughters, and then a son. Son is also Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And after that, he again left. He took vanprastha. He didn't remain as a grihastha. He took vanprastha. He went back to his meditation, solitary meditations. That is only possible if our training is proper when we are brahmacharis. Only a good brahmachari can become a good grihastha. Not that those who cannot keep up with the brahmacharya ashram, they become grihasthas. They can also become grihasthas, but to become a good grihastha, one has to be a good brahmachari, good training of a brahmachari. Because then he understands the human life is not for enjoyment, sense enjoyment. It's for actually making progress spiritually. And if he has taken a responsibility of a wife and children, then he wants to make sure they also make progress spiritually. And for grihasthas, there are many responsibilities and many advantages of being a grihastha. Means as a preacher, for a grihastha it's easier to preach to other grihasthas. For a brahmachari it's difficult. For a brahmachari they can preach to brahmacharis. But for a grihastha, since the world is full of grihasthas, it's easier to preach to grihasthas. That is why even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Jagannath Puri, and Nityanand Prabhu and all the devotees would go every year to Jagannath Puri to attend Rath Yatra and meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, be with him. So one year Mahaprabhu told Nityanand Prabhu that you don't need to come every year now. You just remain in Bengal, get married, and try to convert, try to transform the hearts of the conditioned souls there. Preach over there. Don't come here every year. And that is possible because Mahaprabhu said, I am a sannyasi, I have taken sannyas. I cannot preach to them, but you can get married and preach to them. So Grihastha ashram is an ashram. And it's conducive for preaching to other grihasthas, other family householders. But in general, what life has become of a householder, this is what is being described by Lord Kapil Dev. And he says, the grihastha's concern is to get out of the family life. But whereas the Grihmedi's business is to repeatedly chain himself to so-called family life. And Grihmedi does what? He is so much attached to his wife and children and the properties that next life again he takes a birth and gets again into a family life. It could be a human being, it could be dog, cat, whatever his karmas are. But he perpetually remains in the darkness of Maya. That's a problem. Griheshu kut dharmeshu dukha tantreshu tandritaha kurvan dukha pratikaram sukhvan manyate grihi. The attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and control by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reaction of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he is happy. This is the story of every household actually these days. In Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead himself certifies the material world as an impermanent place that is full of miseries. There is no question of happiness in this material world, either individually or in terms of family, society, or country. If something is going on in the name of happiness, that's also illusion. Here in this material world, happiness means successful counteraction to the effects of distress. So to reduce the distress to whatever extent possible, that is considered happiness. So this is our standard of happiness these days. Means what? If I suppose this coronavirus thing, now it's a problem. Lockdown is there. So sitting at home, now we have to change our lifestyle. It is pretty distressing, and anxiety is there. But somehow we are trying to successfully counteract it. Every single day goes by, and we thank God. Okay, today went by. And we think this is happiness. It's not happiness. It's Maya. The material world is so made that unless one becomes a clever diplomat, his life will be a failure. That is for sure. Diplomat means not the career diplomats, but diplomat means he says something else and in his heart he has something else and he does something else. And if one cannot do that, if one is very simple and straightforward, he cannot survive. That's why many times we have seen devotees get taken advantage of, either financially or otherwise, and they get exploited. Because devotee means he is a simple person, but he should be a simple person. He should be a straightforward person. But the people who cheat him, they don't understand that it is said somewhere in the scriptures, I read that if somebody cheats a Brahman out of his money and he makes the Brahman cry because he has cheated the Brahman out of his whatever little money he has, then the person who has cheated, he for so many lifetimes he has to rot in hell. For every tear that comes out of Brahman's eyes, he has to rot in hell that many lifetimes. Because Brahmins are so dear to Krishna. And on top of it, if he is a Vaishnava, then the situation even becomes grave, more grave. But the time of Kali Yuga is the time of quarrel and hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means nobody is straightforward. So even in the devotee circle, people are not straightforward. But the laws of Krishna, they don't change. So we should be very, very careful in dealing with devotees and in dealing with anybody else, actually. We should be careful, but we cannot give up the principle of being simple and straightforward. We don't want to cheat anybody, but at the same time, we don't want to get cheated either. So one has to be careful. Not to speak of human society, even the society of lower animals, the birds and the bees, cleverly manages its bodily demands of eating, sleeping, and mating. Human society competes nationally or individually, and in the attempt to be successful, the entire human society becomes full of diplomacy. We should always remember that in spite of all diplomacy and all intelligence in the struggle for our existence, everything will end in a second by the supreme will. Therefore, all our attempts to become happy in this material world are simply a delusion offered by Maya. And in our attempts to become happy, we do so much of cheating, and cunningness is there, diplomatic dealings are there, hypocrisy is there. And for what? If by cheating somebody I made some money or some property or something, how long do I think I can enjoy that? It's just like in the previous someplace, the shloka came, this life that we have, it's just a flash. It's just a flash compared to the eternal life that we have, or compared to all the lives that we're going to spend here in the material world. This one lifetime is just a flash. So if somebody tells us, or we cheat people, we do so much of cheating and diplomacy and so all sorts of cunning behavior, and we make money, we make a palace. Why money? We make a big palace to live in with all kinds of facilities that we can even dream of. But if we are told you make this palace, you have all cars, all the luxury cars, even the airplanes at your disposal, and all kinds of food you can eat, and all kinds of clothes you can wear, all kinds of jewelry that you want, it's there. But you can only use it for 1 minute. That's it. Would anybody even try to do that? Try to enjoy that kind of situation. No. One who is intelligent will say, why? Go through all this just to enjoy for 1 minute? Why? What's the point? But this is what we have to understand. This life, one life, is just a flash compared to the eternal, compared to all the lives that we're going to spend here in the material. And to enjoy for one flash, a few moments, we do so much of cheating business, and then we go to hell to pay for that. What's the point? There's a logic. But this is not what people understand. And it's there's something I read very nicely written. It is that when we are doing some pious activity or a good activity, we always thank God, or even if we're not, then we always, in the back of our mind, we have that God is looking at it. That, see, I'm doing so good for somebody. God is looking at it, and He will give me in return something, some blessing, some benediction, or something, monetary gain, benefit would be there. But do we think the same way when we are doing something harmful to somebody else, or when we are committing sin? Shouldn't we think that God is watching this as well, and we are going to get punished? But no, that time we forget. God is watching. But when you're doing good, we want to make sure God is watching. God is watching always. That's what His job is as a Paramatma. He is a witness, He is a sanctioner. He knows what is going on. He is watching. And the punishment is coming. It just His mercy that He doesn't punish us right away, because it gives us a chance to rectify our mistakes. It gives us a chance to surrender unto Him. It gives us a chance to repent our mistakes and make a promise not to commit them again. He's merciful. He's so merciful. But this diplomacy and cunning behavior, cheating propensities, they will not take us anywhere, spiritually or materially. Materially, it is said, we read this in one of the purports, that there's a spiritual return of investment, ROI. That if somebody gives charity, gives a donation to a worthy person, then he gets back the same amount next some lifetime, whenever. But he gives money to a Brahman, then he gives back multifold. But he gives money to a person, Veda Parag, it is said, the person who knows the essence of Vedas and living by that, then he gets back multi-fold, because this is a return of investment in Krishna's accounting books. But now take it the other way. If you take it the other way, if I cheat just a regular person, then I will get cheated next lifetime for the same amount. If I cheat a Pandit or a Brahman, then definitely money is coming out with lots of interest added to it. And if I cheat a Vaishnava, then we can't even imagine how much money we're going to pay back. And maybe it will take many, many lifetimes. That's why we see so much of poverty around. They must have committed lots of cheating activities in previous lives. Of course, as a devotee, it breaks our heart to see people suffering. We want them to enjoy. this life and perform devotion service. The real enjoyment is in this, but it's a karma. Even in this, technically and economically such a rich country, there are people who are living on the streets. There are homeless people who are begging. Of course, we don't find them as frequently or as often as we do in India, but still there are many people born in America. Everybody wants to come to America, at least before coronavirus started, but no facility, no money, no house, nothing to eat. They go in bed. So it's all a matter of karma. So we have to make sure that our activities are not of Kali Yuga. Our activities should be of Satyam. As devotees, we should be simple, straightforward, always wanting to help others, compassionate, take care of others, and live happily, because a simple person can only live happily. A cunning person, even though he cheats somebody else, but back of his mind will always be fear that I will get caught someday and somebody will cheat me. And actually, when we have this kind of energy in ourselves of cheating propensity or lying propensity or do harm to somebody else, when we project this kind of energy, we meet those kind of people who cheat us also. So in the back of the mind of a person who's cheating, it always will be, always be fear. If somebody is lying all the time, back of his mind there will be fear that people are lying to me. Because we are attracting that kind of energy. So the idea is to make our life simple. Because ultimately everything will end in a second. Anything. And looking at this coronavirus thing, I don't know how many more people are going to die. I don't know how much devastation is going to take place. From whatever I'm hearing, it's not a good sign in the near future. I don't know what is going to happen, but rest assured that whatever karmas we have done, they are going to come back. They will come back to us. So only refuge is taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, taking shelter of the holy names of the Lord, taking shelter of the devotion service of the Lord. And pray to Krishna that please engage me in your devotion service. Please give me shelter of your lotus feet. That's the only shelter that we have. Okay, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Grihastha and Grihmedi. Grihmedi, it's clear because it talks about, the lovingness within a family and small children. They do, they have very nice talking and all those things. But what about Grihastha, Prabhuji? Grihastha ashram also be called.
See, Grihastha also doesn't mean you don't talk nicely to the children and the wife, or they don't talk back nicely. They talk back nicely. But the idea is that they know the purpose of life and they work on it. Like Krishna is in the center. Job or business is there, which is nice, it has to be there. The grihasthas mean they have to make money. Other ashrams, they don't make money. Only grihasthas do. But the center or the center of attraction, or point of focus is Krishna. Krishna's service, Krishna's holy name, chanting together. It is said that one family who, what is that saying, common saying, family who prays together stays together, right? But in this case, family who dance together in kirtan advance together. So the idea is to advance spiritually. So Grihastha life is a nice, comfortable home is there. So we all can sit down together, at least chant one round together, talk about Krishna in their home, help each other in becoming Krishna conscious. Wife should help husband, husband should help wife and children, understanding they're all Krishna's part and parcels. And it is my duty to make them grow spiritually in whichever way I can. Whatever duties of husband, whatever duties of wife, they should do their duties properly to help each other to grow spiritually. And then to help the neighbors or the relatives in any way possible. That's the idea.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one small clarification is bhakti has various level. So, what about the Vaishnav? Vaishnav has also various level, or it is certain kind of a qualities somebody has that he is a Vaishnav?
See, Vaishnava, the simple definition is whoever is a devotee of Krishna or Vishnu, Ram, anybody, any of the Vishnu Tattvas. Now, in devotees, there are different categories. Yes, Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam, and Uttam Adhikari.
Yeah, got it, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
You're welcome. Okay, so we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare
Hare